Welcome back to another Q&A. As always, if you have any questions, drop them down below. The best ones will be answered next time, or might even become their own topic. Don't be shy, and let's get started. First question, my pull-up bar doesn't have your wide grip angle. Do you have a workaround for doing super wide grip pull-ups without risking injury on a straight bar? Of course. And if I only had a straight bar, I would avoid the super wide grip pull-up. The wider you grab, the more your forearms tilt outward, placing them at a diagonal angle. For it to feel natural, your wrists need to align accordingly. But with a straight bar, that's not possible. Your wrists are forced inward, creating unnecessary pressure that can lead to golfer's elbow. It's also an inefficient way to pull. So that's why the Silver Era OGs would literally attach a square block to their pull-up bar and use a false grip, cupping their hands over the bar, which eventually led to a better solution, the cambered pull-up bar, which would inevitably carry over to the now popular lat pull-down bar. Notice that when you grip beyond shoulder width apart, there's always a sloped edge. This keeps the forearms and wrists aligned. It's a simple yet intentional design that makes all the difference. So if you don't have access to that kind of setup, it makes sense to attach something to your bar that allows for natural wrist and forearm movement. So I recommend checking out Kenzui Fitness because they offer attachments specifically designed for this, including a semi-supinated grip, though I personally recommend the neutral grip for pull-ups. It reduces internal rotation with a wider grip, lowering the risk of shoulder injuries and decreasing mobility requirements, which is a common complaint. This allows you to drive your elbows directly into your sides, improving alignment and possible lat bias. Some might even argue that this grip is superior to the pronated grip, as it reduces joint stress while improving the arm path. The groove is unmatched. Now recently, Bald Omni-Man has also made this variation his go-to, and for good reason. So I recommend a fixed attachment over gymnastic rings or angles 90 grips because those options change the movement pattern entirely. They introduce front to back motion and rotation, making it more like a wide grip chin, which involves more biceps and results in less of a pure frontal plane pull. In my opinion, a neutral grip attachment is the best solution to replicate the benefits of a straight bar with that edge. It naturally reduces overuse injuries, including the armpit area, and is quick and easy to set up. It's still a super wide grip, which is what makes this exercise so effective. Doesn't matter if it's pronated or not. The upper arm mechanics remain the same. 2 days upper body, low volume, high intensity, and 1 day lower body, same because I can only go to the gym 3 days a week and my lower body's stronger. That's the exact split I followed for months while I was moving. And it's perfect for maximizing progress while minimizing weekly fatigue. It provides enough frequency for the muscles you prioritize. And if you're happy with your legs, they naturally dominate, then train them once a week is sufficient. In fact, I've been doing so since late 2022. I no longer train legs twice a week. Now you might need to slightly increase your volume, but you can still stick to high intensity principles like the 2 sets method. But simply adding an extra compound movement would be beneficial. At the very least, don't slack on your accessories because the data shows that when volume is equated, frequency becomes less important. That's the key takeaway here. So the split is essentially Monday upper, Wednesday lower, and Friday upper. This gives you plenty of rest days and completely eliminates muscular overlap. See, in a typical upper-lower split, back-to-back sessions can lead to muscles getting hit twice, and overall fatigue can carry over since the nervous system operates as one unit. By giving yourself 48 hours between sessions, any minor overlap is irrelevant from a recovery standpoint. 48 hours is enough here, so you don't need the full 72 because you're not overloading the muscles. The stimulus wasn't aggressive as a dedicated day. So this split allows for optimal recovery between upper body sessions, offering 72 to 96 hours of rest. From Monday to Friday, you have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to rest. So 3 days. Then you get 2 more rest days over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. So you see how it's uneven if it's not an asynchronous split? So you could take a volume day and intensity approach, or, since you prefer high intensity, play around with exercise selection. Knowing you'll have an extra recovery day, that's when you incorporate stretch-based movements or exercises that are more taxing or less joint-friendly. On Monday, for example, you can do an arch nemesis bench press, dumbbell flies, JM presses, and push-downs. And you might swap Pendlay rows for a stretch-based row. Then on Friday, because you only have 2 days of recovery as opposed to 3, Pick exercises that are easier to recover from within this natural 72-hour window. This is the perfect time to include floor presses, benching with chains, or combine a stretch-based movement with a more mid-range focused movement. You don't need to double down on isolations either. One per muscle group might be enough. So this volume day, intensity day strategy works well. I'm not talking about higher reps or doing tons of sets. It's about intelligently blending the elements. And of course, on Wednesday, you hit legs hard, leaving no stone unturned. It's going to have to be kind of like a bro split approach, but you don't have to go excessive with the volume. And you'll guaranteed be fully recovered by next week. So what's great about this split is that it minimizes central fatigue by training every 48 hours while still allowing for twice a week frequency for upper body, all within just 3 days of the gym. You will feel incredible. Outside of full body training twice a week, this is probably the second best split for avoiding burnout. I ran this for a good amount of time and plan to return to it in the future because it's just that efficient. Hey Alex, do you think getting stronger on BTN press with overall less overloading potential is worse or better than getting stronger on the seated standing OHP with more overloading potential for growing all three heads of the delts? How to mix in both? I believe the behind the neck press is objectively better for targeting the side delts than any other vertical press. The only exception might be the dumbbell shoulder press with flared elbows, not tucked, or the deficit handstand push-up. With an AD press, you naturally use a closer grip with the elbows in front. And it's the same with the standing overhead press. You're not pressing in a straight line with the elbows flared out, which isn't biomechanically efficient here. Unless you're bloat max and have that extra cushion, for most lifters, you'll favor a closer to medium grip, assuming you're touching the chest or at least lowering right below your chin. So the muscle biasing differs between these motions. The BTN press is a pure frontal plane press, locking you into that path without room for adjustment. And pressing to the front of the body still hits the side delts given their leverage, but clearly the anterior delts do get more work in, especially considering the angle of the bench. You can't fully set it to 90 degrees or else you'd smash yourself in the face. It must be lowered by 1 notch. Therefore, behind neck presses and OHB without leaning back are more comparable to each other. But an AD press and a BTN press are different movements. If you're pressing 135 behind the neck with the bar touching your upper traps, that's likely just as hypertrophic as lifting 185 on the AD press. We're talking about 50 pounds less for a similar stimulus. While the front delts won't get hit quite as hard, the increased side delt activation and stimulus fatigue ratio makes it worth it. Especially since that's where most people tend to lag, and heavier vertical pressing is harder to recover from. Plus, the general carryover is high. So honestly, I wouldn't view this as a versus comparison. And that's why I like that you asked me on how to mix in both. So the best way is to include overhead pressing twice a week for 2 to 5 sets total. One workout in the frontal plane, max 2 sets, and the other more scapular. You can do 2 to 3 sets. So A day could be a seated or standing behind the neck press, or a dumbbell shoulder press with flared elbows. B day could be 2 sets of the AD press, followed by 1 set of standing overhead press. This ensures you maintain shoulder mobility, work all the angles in, eliminate any weak links, and fully engage all heads of the delts. So if you're asking which is the best overhead press for the front delts, I'd say the anterior delt press, obviously. For the side delts, the BTN press is a top choice. And for overall mass, you can't go wrong with the classic OHB. And it's crucial for optimizing your vertical pressing scapulohumeral rhythm. That's exactly why you still want non-back supported overhead pressing in your long-term programming. It's not just about hypertrophy. So yeah, my answer, which is typically not going to be black and white, is to just do it all. I'd love to hear your thoughts on improving pull-up lockout at the top for those 1 rep max sets, or is it just get stronger overall? Haha. Sometimes that minimalist perspective can be taken too far, and you end up with a persistent lockout problem that never goes away. Sure, as you add weight in small increments, the +1s, you're getting stronger. But that same sticking point might remain, and it won't magically improve with time. Now, I do believe this can be fixed, but it requires specific exercise selection. It's not just about leverages. It's mostly caused by muscular weaknesses and not training the joint angles where you struggle. Continuing to max out will only get you stapled in the same spot every time. It's not going to work for most lifters. In this case, getting your chin over the bar is difficult because it's in the shortened position of the strength curve, which limits you. This is similar to a geared powerlifter who gets strong pop off the chest with a bench shirt but struggles at lockout. Regardless of bar speed, they need their triceps to finish the lift. So you might see a geared lifter lock out hundreds of pounds more than a raw lifter who can outbench him off the chest but can't handle the same top end loads. Strength is joint angle specific, and movements limited by the shortened position, like pull-ups, require addressing those joint angles. So the best way to improve your lockout strength isn't just by getting stronger out of the hole. That is a massive misconception. The just get stronger bro mentality fails after a certain level, usually around the 300-pound total range. Instead, you should incorporate pause reps with your chin over the bar. Holding that position develops isometric strength, which radiates 15 degrees in all directions. This helps both just below and just above the bar. Then if you add sternum pull-ups, where your chest touches the bar, this will make regular pull-ups feel like partials when you go back to them. On the other end, you can perform lengthened partials just before the shortened sticking point. Instead of getting your chin over the bar on rep work, add 10% more weight and bring your chin just to the bar. And if you can hold that position, even better. So we're not just talking about isometrics here. It needs to be included in your dynamic work. Doing this will always carry over as long as it's close to the sticking point. So it's similar to board pressing in bench training. And then my final strategy is adding accommodating resistance for both rep work and heavy singles. So if your max is 180 pounds, 4 plates, load 160 with plates and add 30 pounds of chains. This way, you're faster out of the bottom and can surpass your wonder max at the top by a small amount, with 160 at the bottom and 190 as you ascend. This method is highly specific and far more effective than eccentric overloads, which in my opinion, don't have the best carryover. And if you look at what some of the top street lifters are doing, they're incorporating a lot of pause reps at the sticking point with super maximal weights. Although using chains isn't quite common yet, it's my little conjugate hack, and I know more elites will catch on soon. It's more effective than just super maximal isometrics because you're still training the concentric portion in a very specific way, thus reinforcing the movement pattern with overloaded weights. And as I continue to progress on pull-ups, eventually hitting 200 pounds or more with my lifetime goal being 5 plates, you'll see just how effective this method is. Call it the future method of calisthenics training. It works well, and I'm sure more street lifters will adopt it soon. Just remember, I called it first. What are your thoughts on how and when to deload? I've watched many other YouTubers and their takes, Dr. Mike, GVS Based on Bodybuilding, etc. I was wondering about yours. Appreciate you. I've gone back and forth on the topic of deloads. When I analyzed when I was at my strongest, it was always during times where I included a few deloads in my macro cycle. Now that doesn't mean you need to be obsessive about it, like taking one every 3 weeks, but every 6 to 8 weeks or even every 3 months can be perfectly reasonable. If you skip them, that's when overuse starts to creep up. My opinions on deloads have always been influenced by the phase of training I was in. For example, when I focused solely on hypertrophy, I felt the need for deloads was reduced. When I was maxing out regularly and chasing strength-specific goals, deloads became practically essential. Some people may argue that needing a deload means your programming is flawed, that you don't know how to manage fatigue. But I think those people are out of touch with reality. Many of them are on PEDs and overly focus on speculative mechanisms rather than looking at real-world outcomes. If you analyze competitive strength athletes, most of them include deloads in their programs, even when they follow properly periodized routines with reps and reserves and percentages being factored in, with good exercise selection and all that jazz. And in my own experience with max effort training, hitting one or maxes every week, I find that I need a deload after about 3 months of training. If I don't take it, I start to feel weaker, almost like I'm about to get sick, and the progress is slower because I'm in a constant state of fatigue. My ability to grind through tough reps diminishes, and I feel tired all the time. It almost feels like I'm cutting, even if I'm in a massive surplus and sleeping 10 hours a night. At some point, the fatigue just becomes overwhelming, and there's nothing you can do about it. You are overreached. You can try resting longer between sets, cutting out lengthened movements, or training every 72 to 96 hours, but eventually you will hit your limit. That's when deloads are important. If you don't take it, your body will force you to take one, either getting injured, sick, or ending up in a downward spiral of diminishing returns. Experience teaches you this, and the stronger you get, the more important deloads become. Just say Matt Wenning, who's been running conjugate for decades, started competing at 18, is now in 40, still producing world-class strength. For him, deloads became essential when he reached his peak form. he was taking one every 4 weeks. So you see how the absolute load gets factored into this? So when we talk about deloading, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to deload every single body part, just the areas that are problematic. By definition, if you're still making progress in some capacity, then you're not systemically overreached. So deloading everything would be a waste of time. For example, if your back work is still improving and your curls are going up and you have no signs of golfer's elbow, but your pec and shoulder tie-in feels off when you bench heavy, then it's just the pressing movements that need to take a step back. This approach is more of a reactive deload, and I think is generally the best way to go about it. So Menno Henselmans has spoken extensively about this topic, and if you're interested, you can check out his videos. So the only difference in my approach is that I don't reduce volume much because it's already low by default. What I do adjust is the weights used and the reps in reserve. So for example, I'll cut the weights in half. Instead of doing 3 sets of 10 with 275 on the Larson press, I might do 135 for sets of 15. I leave plenty of reps in reserve. And once I feel a good pump, I immediately stop the set, focusing on excellent technique and avoiding momentum to reduce peak forces. I'm not trying to fatigue myself. No grinding, no excessive high reps, and no heavy lifting. It's essentially warm-up training, using the same movement patterns but on basic variations. I'll still hit all the muscle groups, but instead of doing 3 compound movements at 2 sets each, I might do 2 compound movements with 2 or 3 sets each. The overall volume per workout remains the same, but with less variety. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. Like I won't do both jam presses and pushdowns. I'll just do dual cable pushdowns, which are easier on the elbows and won't come close to failure. Same thing with the biceps. I'll probably skip barbell curls. Maybe I'll just do hammer curls. To sum it up, you choose basic, easier variations. Keep the volume relatively similar on a workout-to-workout basis and split your sessions by 72 hours. Preferably full body twice a week, since the sessions will be easy anyway. You do this for 1 week for the muscles that are overreached, eat in a caloric surplus during that time, sleep as much as you can, and then you'll be good to go. All of that fatigue will be dissipated, and now you have months of progress awaiting. By next week, you'll probably hit a PR, and you can max out right then and there. No need to ease into anything. You're good. So I recommend doing this every 6 to 12 weeks. I know it's a broad range, but depending on your training, it's what it is. So you can either plan it in advance or listen to your body when you start to feel banged up. My experience, again, is the heavy lifting, particularly when maxing out. Even worse when it's done twice a week. In that case, you gotta deload a lot more frequently. I'm interested in strength training, but not at a competitive elite level. Should I get a 10mm or 13mm belt? Thanks. You could even go beltless if you're not planning on competing. I got my first belt in 2017. Before that, when I was doing all these crazy overloads, remember the rack pulls and all of that? I had over 1,000 pounds without a belt. You can get a lot stronger than you realize, but to answer your question, a 13mm belt will obviously provide the most support, but it can be cumbersome and difficult to break in, though you'll get used to it over time. I used one for about 7 years, but after switching to a 10mm belt, I understand why it's the most popular choice. It's way easier to put on and take off, doesn't cause as much pain, and at a lighter body weight, that can make all the difference. Unless you got a power gut or are deep into bear mode, you likely don't need a 13mm belt. It won't add that much more support or stability. It's minor. In fact, these days, I've taken it another step down. I use a 3-inch 10mm belt. So far, I find it offers a similar level of support to a 4-inch 13mm belt. It's not night and day, guys, but the difference is, with the 3-incher, I have better mobility for things like acid grass squats and deadlifts. I don't have a bulky belt getting in the way. And being at a lighter body weight, I don't feel like my ribs are being crushed or bruised. Honestly, I think super thick belts are overrated for most lifters. If you look at bodybuilding in the 90s, for example, most of the elites wore tapered weightlifting belts. You never saw a bodybuilder wearing a powerlifting belt because they didn't need it. Actually, the Velcro belt was most popular. Even Dorian Yates used it. Remember Vallejo? It worked for him all the way to the pinnacle of the Olympia. He was doing RDLs and bent over rows with that belt. So it really depends on your needs. In fact, here's a little pro tip. I'll often wear the Velcro belt underneath, then put my 10mm belt on top. That way, I get the best of both worlds in terms of thickness and stability with the additional comfort. So I'm maximally locked in. Very good for overhead pressing. Now again, if you're a competitive powerlifter, you do you might go for the 13mm belt, but if not, I don't think it's necessary. The 10mm belt is more versatile, and these days the 3-inch version is highly underrated. And I know that Alan Thrall switched to it as well. He has an entire belt collection, so give it a try. I use the one from Strength Shop, and no, I am not sponsored by them. I bought it with my own money, and it's also vegan, which is great. Can you replace something like lateral raises for glute raises for hypertrophy work? Yes, and this is what I personally do 9 out of 10 times, simply because you get more out of less weight. Let's be real. Most of you won't be using more than 25-pound plates for standard sets and reps, so I typically do sets of 15 and haven't really gone beyond that. Now I could go up to the 35s, but there's still a lot of untapped potential with the lighter plates. On the other hand, with lateral raises, you'll probably need to go above 30 pounds at some point, and that usually leads to sloppy technique as you try to compensate for the faulty resistance profile. Glute raises still have a bit of that issue, but since you're going all the way vertical, the end range of motion isn't short and biased. In this exercise, the mid-range, the moment you pass that, it gets easier towards a lockout. And since using less weight, you avoid the same sticking points as you would with heavy dumbbell lateral raises. The way your muscles fatigue is different. It's hard to explain, but you'll know what I mean when you try it. You can actually grind through to the top. Whereas with lateral raises, if you can't get it up here, it's hard to grind through unless you're swinging. Now, another benefit of the glute raise is that it not only targets the side delts, but also the lower traps, which are highly neglected. This contributes to shoulder health, and at the top of the movement, you can even shrug, refining your scapulohumeral rhythm. It allows you to open up fully and maximally protract, making it feel like a more natural motion with greater carryover to the overhead press. Everyone should be doing glute raises, especially if they're not performing standing overhead presses. If all you do is AD presses, just adding glute raises will be enough, as crazy as that may sound. But if you're only doing lateral raises and seated presses, I don't think that's the best approach for longevity. Just my opinion. So adding glute raises to your overhead press program will definitely help. I believe the glute raise is underrated, not just as a mobility exercise, but also as a general mass builder for the side delts. And the best part is, you don't need to go heavy. So my shoulders always feel godly while doing it, and I'll probably never take them out of my program for that exact reason. So instead of grabbing heavy dumbbells and doing power raises, which is nothing wrong with, I've done that myself. You see me doing the 50s, no problem. I prefer sticking to 25s on the glute raise, literally half the weight. I get the same stimulus to my side delts with the added benefit of working other muscles, all while improving the stimulus-to ratio and maintaining much better form. Both exercises work, but I definitely prefer the glute raise. Why the block in the middle of the bar? Doesn't that limit your descent? This is a common question I get. Alex, why are you doing the board press when the chest experiences stretch medial hypertrophy? Isn't the lengthened position superior for chest growth? Yes. That's 100% true, and that's exactly why I own an arch nemesis bar, the Buffalo bar, and I do a lot of weighted dips and deficit push-ups. But let me ask you this, do you see me doing those exercises all the time? No way. I would never program only extended range of motion lifts, even though the science supports it as being superior to chest hypertrophy. If we're talking about one-on-one, it's much harder to recover from, something experts overlook. And it's not just your pecs that are affected in the bottom, but your shoulders too, which are a major limiting factor, if not the limiting factor to long-term heavy bench press training. If all you do is extended range of motion presses, you'll be on the edge of recovery, especially if you're pressing every 72 hours. You might even need to run an asynchronous split to manage it. Personally, I need 96 hours of recovery if I double down on stretch-based exercises. That's why I mix in mini partials, like the half board press and one board press. You can lift nearly the same weight as your regular bench, but without destroying your shoulders. This allows you to keep maxing out weekly, overload the triceps, which is my weakness, not chest, and feel way less beat up. So for those who aren't benching over 315 for reps on the regular and want to criticize board presses, your inexperience is showing. Please stop referencing studies done on beginners who can't even bench a fraction of what I do. They don't understand the significance of absolute load. It really changes everything. And if they were truly trained, their recovery would 100% be compromised, especially with the insane volume recommendations coming out of this crowd. Keep in mind, I'm doing lower volume, and benching twice a week is still tough for me, including with short arms. One day is extended range of motion or normal, and the other is normal or mini partials. If I did super stretch on both days, I would not be able to run my current program. It would not be Monday, Thursday, or Monday, Friday. I would have to change it up so that I'm always getting 96 hours between both sessions. So you'll learn the hard way once you're stronger. But that's exactly why I mix in full range benching, deficit presses, partials. I do it all to reduce overuse, strengthen all joint angles, and prioritize optimal recovery, not just optimal chest hypertrophy. That's why I do freaking floor presses, even though on paper they're worse, to minimize the chest muscle damage while still getting stronger at dead stop presses similar to pause benching with good enough range of motion. The fact that the floor press is a minor partial is actually a benefit here. And if you want more triceps focus from your bench press, the board press is better and has direct carryover to pressing off the chest. When I hit 405, I'd already done 405 off a half board a month prior, so I knew I'd be able to hit it with a proper peak. It's the ultimate tester, and it doesn't beat you down as much. So it's a great exercise, especially for taller lifters. A lot of you guys complain that there's too much range of motion on the bench. So let me ask you, why are you not board pressing? So what these extreme lifters don't realize is how small the range of motion reduction is. It's not a 3 to 4 board press, guys. So I often max out with the board and then strip it off to immediately hit 3 sets of 10 without a freaking warm-up, using the same percentages. For example, I recently did 370 on the Larson board press, then stripped it down to 275 without the board and knocked out 3 sets of 10. That's around 75%. So you can structure this way. Go heavy with the board, focus on hypertrophy without it, or vice versa. And instead of doing manual partial reps, which I don't condone, which can be inconsistent, just use the board. It keeps your shoulders healthy, still carries over the full range of motion lifts, and you will build your chest. We're talking about literally an inch at most. It's gonna be fine. So as much as I love stretch-based presses, and I've been advocating them way before the science came out, let me be very clear. That's not the only thing I do or would ever recommend. Why don't I train exclusively that way, even though I'm gunning for 405 at a lighter body weight and understand the modern perspective? I've seen all the videos, I've seen the studies, I am aware. Sometimes you don't want to overwork the bottom range. If you're strong, you know. If you're not strong, you'll say, only do super ROM. Try that out when you're lifting what I'm lifting. Doing a natty to top it off. Can one rely on reverse Nordics, sissy squats, and Nordics for leg mass, or are weights always needed? If so, do you have any variations in mind that don't require heavy weights? I'm training at home and currently can't get more plates. This was the most liked question, and I'm not surprised. Leg training isn't exactly a favorite for many guys. Anyway, if you're doing sissy squats, specifically the pendulum version, then you really don't need leg presses or hack squats. That's your ultimate replacement right there. You can hold plates for extra resistance so progression won't be an issue. And for high rep isolation work, reverse Nordic curls effectively substitute for leg extensions, especially since they're length and bias and take advantage of stretch-mediated hypertrophy for the quads. As for hamstrings, nothing beats regular Nordic curls. They're the best exercise in the world for getting that meat right behind the knee. They're so tough that I'm still working on them myself. And it's the only isolation exercise I do next to banded leg curls. So if you stick to just these 3 movements, pendulum sissy squats, reverse Nordics, and regular Nordics, your quads and hamstrings will look fantastic. However, the drawback is that these movements won't do much for your spinal rectors or glutes. Your posterior chain will 100% suffer if you only focus on these. No glutes, no thickness. You'll need to add something like Bulgarian split squats or deep pistol squats, which are great because they too don't require a lot of weight. Alternatively, a single leg RDL could work if you're limited on weight. But honestly, if your main goal is aesthetic legs with decent enough size, this trifecta will work. Personally, I follow a similar routine, but with the addition of belt squats and reverse hyperextensions for the posterior chain. I use these as alternatives when I want to skip barbell squats and hip hinges while still maintaining a balanced leg program for hypertrophy. So for years, I believed calisthenics was not optimal for leg gains and that you had to lift heavier. But once I learned more about biomechanics, especially in relation to quad training, I realized it's all about getting the tibia as low as possible. At the end of the day, it's all about leverages and moment arms. So that's when I discovered that sissy squats provide similar quad stimulation as heavier barbell squats, but with a fraction of the load and without loading your spine. And of course, We can't forget about the importance of stimulus to fatigue. This is something Doug Brignoli was way ahead of. May he rest in peace. When you look at a back squat, the tibia only bends forward by around 30 degrees. If you do the math and calculate the forces involved, for an average man doing a 2-plate barbell squat, it's similar to a bodyweight sissy squat in terms of pure quad activation. And if you increase the range of motion or difficulty with a deficit variation and or pauses, it's like squatting over 3 plates. So you don't need to overload. And with the hypertrophy rep range extending from 4 to 35, imagine applying that to sissy squats. Have you ever seen someone crank out 30 sissy squats in a row? Even 15 to 20 reps can be brutal, and they're still efficient. And if you're too strong, adding a small amount of weight will solve that. Just to say, when I was barbell squatting 405 for 9 reps, I was only doing sissy squats with 70 pounds. If that's not getting more out of less weight, then I don't know what is. Nowadays, I do the same thing with my belt squat machine, and my quads get just as trash as they did with heavy barbell squats. So I'm actually not doing barbell squats at the moment. Next, reverse Nordics are similar in that they can be scaled with reverse bands, making them great for high reps too. And regular Nordic curls, well, need I say more? They're harder than glute ham raises. If you can do bodyweight Nordics, you'll easily max out the leg curl machine on day 1. If that doesn't build your hamstrings, then nothing will. Forget about what's optimal or worrying about seated versus lying leg curls. Just master Nordics. As hardcore as that advice may sound, it works. And that's my goal because I'm not interested in buying a machine. I want the injury prevention and athletic benefits that comes with Nordics with huge freaking hamstrings. For example, I can't even do a single unassisted rep. Yet I've done 4 or 5 for 15 reps on RDLs and 4.5 plates for 9 reps. Clearly, hip hinges are not enough to develop the lower hamstring, which is key for that aesthetic look. Right behind the knee, the part that looks great in shorts. Without it, your legs will look small from the back. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. And then you have the quads. The rectus femoris is bypassed in back squats and other typical variations. However, sissy squats and reverse Nordics hit the entire quadriceps. So the only muscles that will lag with this approach are the glutes and lower back. But when it comes to pure legs, you can absolutely improve with these basics. And I'm confident that I can maintain my leg size just fine with this routine because my current training isn't all that different. And I've been training like this well before it became popular. The first time I took leg curls seriously was last year, and even then, still didn't compare it. That's why I'm fully committing to Nordics now. I value the difficulty above all else. As for quads, if you're doing sissy squats with 45 to 90 pounds for reps, that is serious strength. I remember Juji Mufu back squatting 500 for reps, but couldn't do 135 on the sissy squat. What does that tell you? Body weight alone can take you far. And adding just a little bit of weight, especially with proper technique, can put you in elite territory. And for Nordics, once you can do 4 bodyweight reps, you're all set. So yes, my updated stance is that calisthenics can grow your legs as long as you pick the right movements and apply the correct intensity. And there you have it, another Q&A complete. Keep asking me these awesome questions, and I'll be sure to answer them next time.